Welcome back to another episode of the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. This episode, I'm going to detail the crazy story of how I broke my ankle while drunk and then subsequently decided to make a New Year's resolution to quit drinking for an entire year. So that's what this episode is going to be about. The story, the New Year's resolution, and more importantly, how I was able to make that New Year's resolution and actually stick to it. I actually didn't drink for an entire year, and I even made it up almost 2 years without drinking, at which point I made a conscious decision to start drinking again. So this is going to be a fantastic podcast for one, if you or somebody you know struggles with alcohol. I wouldn't say that I was addicted to alcohol, but I was definitely borderline alcoholic. I had issues with alcohol. Let's put it that way. So if anybody you know has issues with alcohol, or if you overconsume alcohol, this episode will be a fantastic listen. If you struggle to set goals or New Year's resolutions for yourself, or if you set them and you find yourself falling off track as the months go on. Maybe you don't even make it past January for your goals and resolutions. This episode is going to detail how I personally set this large New Year's resolution and actually stuck to it for the whole entire year. Before we get into this episode, I want to give you guys a quick word from our sponsors. I will make it short because I want this episode to be short so you guys will actually listen to it, because it turns out a lot of people out there don't have time to improve themselves with 60 plus minute long podcast episodes. So this one I will keep short. So let's dive into the sponsors. All of my sponsors, I hand select. I don't just take anybody who's going to pay me money. I personally chose each and every one of these sponsors because I use them on a daily basis and I believe in actually there's nothing to believe in. Like, I experience the benefits from all of these products, and I want you guys to as well. Also, your support to my sponsors is what allows me to continue bringing you this podcast for free every single week. All right, so first up, this episode is brought to you by Lambs, which is this EMF blocking beanie that I've got on right now. I also have their shirt and their underwear that I especially wear during travel. Lambs blocks up to 99% of EMFs that cause things like headaches, trouble sleeping, irritability, inflammation. So especially in crowded places like airports, I always rock my Lambs gear. You guys can get a hookup on anything from Lambs, which are essentially wearable antioxidants, if you click the link in the description. Next up, and on a similar note, this episode is also brought to you by Aries Tech, this EMF protection necklace that I wear. This doesn't directly block the EMFs, but it instead modulates the chaotic energy and makes them more biocompatible to the body. I've also got one stuck to the back of my phone because EMF exposure is literally everywhere on your electronic devices and even as you're walking through the city. So this necklace makes me feel safe and protected, especially when traveling to 5G cities where there's 5G towers all over the place. And this protects my entire body. I believe this specific model that I have has 12 square feet of protection. So yeah, pretty nifty little device. And what I like about this is that you just wear it or stick it on your phone and you forget about it. There's nothing you have to do. It's just working. So to learn more about Aries and to pick one up for yourself, click the link in the description and you guys get an exclusive 35% off discount for being a listener of the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. So check out that link, use code CaptainMorgan35. Next up, this episode is brought to you by HVMN, specifically their new product, Ketone IQ shots. These are perfect for travel. As you guys know, I travel a lot. Again, that's why I prioritize this EMF protection. These I can take with me on the plane because they are below the arbitrary 3 ounces that you're allowed to take with you on a plane. And if you're not yet familiar with ketones, I suggest you familiarize yourself with them because they are one of the best performance enhancers that I've personally ever experienced. I am hooked on ketones. They are phenomenal. I take one shot in the morning. That's the first thing that I consume, along with water, of course, and a probiotic. Really good for mental clarity. I took this shot before recording this podcast. And then I also take one, sometimes two shots before working out because, especially while fasted, it's a fantastic physical performance enhancer. So to get the hookup on Ketone IQ, head over to hvmn.com or click the link in the description to get 20% off using code CaptainMorgan20. All right. Last but certainly not least, this episode is brought to you by Nootopia. Specifically, the product that I want to highlight is Xamarin Juice. I use this. It's a sublingual spray, so I'll take some right now. You just spray it underneath your tongue. It is a rapid neurotransmitter stimulator. So within 5 to 10 minutes, I will be feeling the effects of that. And the effects are phenomenal, especially as an introvert like myself. It helps with verbal fluency. Really good for social interactions. It provides a nice level of mental alertness, paired really well with relaxation and calm. So you get this heightened sense of alertness and positivity without any jitters. It's like a euphoric feeling almost. So again, really good for recording podcasts. You guys can get the hookup on Xamarin Juice and all of their custom nootropic blends that are made specifically for you. That's right. Each batch is made custom to you. Head over to nootopia.com/Taylor and get your exclusive discount on the world's best customized nootropics. All right, now let's dive into today's episode. Allow me to paint you a picture. This picture is of a very stressed out, sleep deprived, borderline depressed version of Taylor. This was back in 2017 when I was still in the Marine Corps, where I hated my life. I had trouble sleeping. I was a victim, which caused a lot of stress. Every other sentence out of my mouth was fuck this, fuck that, fuck you. And because of that, I, as with most Marines, on the weekends would drown my sorrows with alcohol. That's right. I used to be a pretty heavy drinker. And this story that I'm about to tell you guys was the turning point of my entire life. This was a complete 180 trajectory shift. The night was May 20th, 2017. The time, approximately 2 a.m. I'm out at a party, as usual, and I'm blackout drunk, as usual, because at the time, I didn't see any point in just going out and having a few drinks or just having one beer. Like, if I was going to drink, I was going to drink to get drunk, because after all, in my head, that was the whole point of drinking, right? To forget as much as possible about the life that I hated and to have fun for a little bit. So this night was no different. I was blackout drunk. To give a little bit more context, we were in San Clemente, California, which is a beautiful little beach town in Southern California. We rented a beach house for this party. And so I'm blackout drunk, and my friend starts passing around a weed vape pen. And this was the first time that I had consumed any sort of THC. I know that sounds crazy, but for the first 21 years of my life, I'd never consumed any form of cannabis. So they're passing around in my drunk state. Of course, I'm going to try this new thing, right? It doesn't matter that I'm in the Marine Corps. I don't care if we get drug tested. I'm going to do this thing because I hate my life, and any new substance that has the potential to bring fleeting happiness to me, I'm going to try if presented the opportunity. So I did. And while I was in the Marine Corps, my ego was massive. All right. So massive ego, blackout drunk, gets handed a weed vape pen for the first time. Take a massive hit. Am I supposed to feel anything? I don't feel anything. I'm going to take a few more. 5 minutes go by. Hey, are you sure that thing's working? I don't feel anything. Let me get another one. That keeps happening, right? Because I think I'm so cool and the THC isn't affecting me, right? Turns out it did, because what ensued was the craziest story of my entire life. So again, it's about 2 a.m. and in typical drunk Taylor fashion, I was trying to drive home. I would drive drunk often in the Marine Corps, oftentimes waking up in my car, not having any recollection of how I got back to base. And if you're familiar with military bases, in order to drive on base, you have to show the guards your ID. They have to talk with you, make sure that you're coherent and not drunk out of your mind. And yeah, make sure you're not up to anything suspicious. So apparently, I became so good at pretending or acting like I was sober that the gate guards let me by. And one time in particular, I remember waking up in my car to my friend who was on duty, knocking on my window, waking me up in my still running car, saying, "Hey, get up. It's time to get ready for work." So it was bad. This night, again, was no different. 2 a.m., grab my keys, start to walk approximately a mile back to my car. I had no shoes on at the time, which I wasn't aware of because I was blackout drunk. So as I'm walking to my car in this beautiful beach house community, literally on the beach in San Clemente, California, the idea pops into my head that I want to climb houses. Why does this idea pop into my head? I have no idea. Maybe it's because I wanted to experience excitement and adventure in my life that I hated. I wanted to do everything I could to escape from that life. So this sounded like an exciting adventure. It also may have had something to do with my first experience being high. So I said, you know what? Let's do it. Let's climb houses. So I start scaling the sides of these beach houses. And I came to one house where the window was unlocked. So naturally, the adventurous, curious state that I was in, what did I do next? Can you guess? That's right. I entered the window. So now I am in this person's bathroom. And I walk out the bathroom, look to the right at the top of the stairs, because these are 3-story beach houses. I'm on the 2nd story. I look up the 3rd story stairs. There's a dog sitting at the top of the stairwell. We make eye contact. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. The dog does nothing, just lays back down. So I'm like, cool. Close the door very silently, continue to explore this new territory. I then make it into what appears to be a girl's room. The lights are on, nobody's in there. Do a little poking around, and then I notice a little sub room. So I take the step up. Now I'm in this smaller room with the lights off. There's a bed in there, and I notice there's a girl sleeping in the bed. Mind you, I wasn't planning on encountering any human beings. I wasn't planning anything. I wasn't thinking anything. I was just like going with the flow. So I was quiet as a church mouse. I didn't make any noise. I was a sneaky little ninja getting into her room. Knowing what I know now about energy, I imagine that she sensed that something was wrong. She sensed my presence because as soon as I stood up into her room and saw that there was a person in there, before I could even process the thought of what am I going to do now, she wakes up. Mind you, it's approximately 2 a.m., So she is in a deep slumber. I didn't make any noise. So it had to have been her body sensed that something was wrong. So she's waking up, rubbing the sleep out of her eyes, like, who are you? And I was like, I'm Taylor. We met at a party. I was real great at bullshitting. She says, nope, I didn't go to a party tonight. I don't know who you are. I'm going to call the cops. I said, no, that's okay. I'm just going to leave then. So I went back out of her room, same way that I came in, hopped down to the street and started booking it back to my car. That's not where the story ends. Because on my sprint back to my car, I was like, you know what? That was really weird. I would like to go back and apologize to this poor girl. By the way, I would imagine that she was mid to late teenage years. So I am now going back to apologize to this girl, except I'm, of course, going to do it via rooftop, right? Because that's the exciting thing to do. So now I literally climb up to the rooftops of these beach houses, 3 stories, and proceed to jump from rooftop to rooftop back to this girl's house so that I could apologize for being so weird. Yeah. So during this process, I'm landing on the other side of the roof. The shingles are shattering, sliding down, causing a whole ruckus, right? I imagine the people inside thought it must have been a meteor shower or something. It was loud. So I come to this one gap that's pretty substantial. It's bigger than all the other ones. That's what she said. And in the dreamlike state that I was in, because I was like, there's no way this is reality. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can't get injured. Let's just have fun. I go for it. So I got a running start, jump, made it to the other side. But when I landed, I heard this loud pop. And that moment, ladies and gentlemen, was the moment that literally and figuratively sobered me up. I was, in fact, not in a dream. I just messed up my ankle, and how the heck am I going to get off this roof? Thankfully, I was a CrossFit coach and I had been practicing functional fitness for a while, so I lowered myself down from the rooftop. Thankfully, this particular house had a stairwell that led down to their backyard, so I walked down the stairs out their backyard gate and proceeded to hobble the rest of the approximate half mile back to my car. I would wake up in my car around 7 a.m., drove back to base with my left foot, and long story short, the ankle was broken. Broke my right ankle, and that would cause me to miss my second deployment in the Marine Corps, which crushed me because this next deployment had the potential to be a combat deployment, which was the primary reason that I joined the Marine Corps, was to be able to fight with and protect my brothers. So it crushed me, knowing that if anything did go down, I would not be there because of my stupid, irresponsible decision. Because of that, and also because I saw the trajectory that my life was going, and I hated it. I knew that this is not who I was, that this is not who I was meant to be, that I was nowhere near my potential, that I was basically doing nothing with my life. Because in my free time, I would play video games. On the weekends, I would drink. I was not being productive or making an impact on the world, which I knew was not what I wanted to do. It's just because I was depressed. I was in the victim mentality. I was stressed out. I was just distracting myself from the fact that I was not living my true purpose. So this moment was the moment that I decided that was going to change. That moment, now that I'm being left back when everybody else goes on deployment, I'm now the only person left back. So I've got a ton of spare time. I got to check in here and there, but really I'm on my own. So my time was consumed with rehab, my ankle, and I used this opportunity to completely change my lifestyle. I decided to learn everything I could about lifestyle optimization, about health, happiness, productivity, because I wanted so bad to move away from this shitty, depressed, stressed out life that I was surviving and instead move towards thriving, a life that I was fucking stoked about, that I was excited to live. So I started listening to educational podcasts in my free time. I started reading, which up until that point, I had never read a single book. Not even in high school, I despised reading. So I started reading. I started taking online college courses. I started training even more in the gym because I hate the excuse of I'm injured, I can't work out. It's such bullshit. I trained a guy who has no arms and no legs. His name is Ryan Hudson Peralta. I actually interviewed him on my podcast way back when I first started it. He's crushing it now. So there's literally no excuse for you to not move your body, even if you're injured, especially if you're injured. So I would continue to train legs, even though I had a cast on. I would do banded exercises. I would get creative with things. I would find out ways to work my legs because I was done being a victim. I had been a victim for so long, and it got me to this point. So clearly it wasn't working. So now I'm taking matters into my own hands. My mindset, to give you an example, was, okay, I can't walk on my feet. I'm going to learn to walk on my hands. So I taught myself how to handstand walk. This was my mindset, right? Also, the doctors told me that I would barely be able to start running again in 6 months. 5 months after breaking my ankle, I ran 2 back-to-back Spartan races, one on Saturday, another one on Sunday. I don't remember exactly where I placed, but I was in like the top 20 of everybody who ran the race. So I fucking crushed it. Again, I wasn't going to let somebody else tell me when I was going to recover. I was using all of this holistic knowledge that I was learning, and I was incorporating it into my own lifestyle. It's like, okay, I'm going to be my own test dummy. Let's see if I can heal my ankle faster than what the doctors are telling me. So to continue with this story, I'd started changing my lifestyle. Again, this was in May of 2017. I would continue to drink, not as often, but kind of sporadically for the next few months. And come New Year's, I made it my New Year's resolution to quit drinking for an entire year. Because clearly, alcohol was not my friend. Clearly, alcohol was doing a whole lot more negative than it was positive. It wasn't doing any positive. Alcohol is a poison. Alcohol shrinks your brain. Alcohol reduces your testosterone. It diminishes your ability to recover from injuries, from workouts. It lowers your sleep quality. It's poison, right? And I knew this. And so I decided to quit drinking for the entire year. How was I able to do that and know that I would actually stick to it? Because so many people set New Year's goals and they don't actually stick to them. They break their promises to themselves. I had always known that if I promise something, I'm going to keep that promise. And what I know now is, in my opinion, integrity is the most important aspect of masculinity. It's making and keeping promises, not just to others, but more importantly to yourself as a man, doing what you say you're going to do. Your word is your bond. So for my whole life, I knew that when I promised something, I would do that thing. That's why I am scarce with my promises. Like if I promise you something, it is going to get done. minus some crazy natural disaster that is actually out of my control, right? I'm going to do everything in my power to fulfill this promise. So I waited so long to make this decision because I knew it was going to be difficult. I knew that if I actually committed to not drinking, I was actually not going to drink. And because I was borderline addicted to it, it took me a while of procrastinating to actually make this decision, even though I knew it was a bad habit, right? So it's now New Year's. I have my last drink. I was like, okay, for all of 2018, I am not drinking alcohol because I experienced the life of being borderline addicted to alcohol and video games and pornography and just these instant, meaningless pleasures that I was using to cover up my hurt on the inside. I had experienced that life. I saw that if I continued that trajectory, I would not like the person who I ended up to be. Because I had experienced that, and then I began to think of a picture for my future. I began to think of the impact that I would be able to have. I began to think of the legacy that I wanted to leave. I now was moving away from something that I no longer wanted, and then also moving towards something that I so deeply wanted, an optimized lifestyle of health, happiness, productivity. So I decided the etymology of the word decide is to cut ties with. A phrase that I love is burn the ships at the shore. So I burned the ships at the shore. I decided I'm not drinking. And it was like that. There's no other option for me. I was going to not drink for an entire year. Even though my friends, quote unquote, would try to convince me otherwise. And now I would like to get into the most important parts of goal setting and actually sticking to goals or New Year's resolutions, for example. So I already explained the first two. Deciding. You must decide. You must actually make a decision. No maybes, no kind ofs, no trying. You, as a man, must decide. You must commit to that decision. In your head, there must be no other option to fail, to go a different direction. You have now decided that this is your new path. In order to do that, to actually do that, you need two things. You need a strong why. You need a reason why you're doing that thing. I explained mine. I was moving away from this life that I hated towards a life of fulfillment, which we can get into on later podcasts. More on fulfillment and my purpose now. So you need a strong why, because when things get difficult, which they will, it would be unreasonable for things not to get difficult. You can fall back on your why. Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, I'm going to paraphrase this quote, says, "A man who has a strong enough why can bear with almost any how." All right, if you're not familiar, Viktor Frankl was a German psychologist, a Jewish psychologist who was captured by the Germans during World War II, thrown into the concentration camps. He obviously survived, and how he was able to survive was holding on to this meaning, this deeper purpose that he had. And then he wrote a book about it, Man's Search for Meaning. It's one of my all-time favorite books. Highly recommend reading it. Anyways, back to the requirements for staying consistent with goal setting. You have to decide. You have to have a reason, a strong why. You also have to change your environment. Why is this crucial? This is crucial because the people around you, even people who you think are your friends or even your family, if they are insecure about themselves and their habits, if they notice you start to do what they perceive to be as healthy or better habits, they will either consciously or subconsciously try to pull you back down to their level, to their bad habits, so that they don't feel bad about themselves, right? If you have a friend who starts going to the gym and the rest of the friend group doesn't work out and is lazy and eats fast food, they're going to view that friend going to the gym and improving his health as an attack on their way of living, right? Because of their own insecurities. They don't want to put in the work, even though they know they should. So instead, the easier option for them, instead of actually doing the work and making progress, is to pull you back down to their level. All right. So this is exactly what happened to me when I decided to not drink. And I would still go out to the bars and to parties and have fun. I just wouldn't drink. And I would explain this to people. I would explain, hey, I've decided not to drink. It's my New Year's resolution. I'm not going to drink for the entire year. I said it very matter of fact like that. And I explained why. I was like, that I broke my ankle. Like I was not a happy person. And I'm working on changing that. How I'm doing that is I committed to not drink. Even still, out at a bar. Oh, come on, it's this special occasion. It's this holiday. It's the Marine Corps birthday, man. You're really telling me you're not going to have a drink for our fallen brothers on the Marine Corps birthday? Come on. Like, my friends actually said that to me. They tried to get me to break my integrity. There's a very clear indicator of who my friends were. And I want you guys to pay attention to that. It is a very clear indicator of who actually cares about you, of who actually loves you. From my perspective, those friends who tried to get me to drink, even after I had explained to them why, they didn't actually love me. They were so insecure about themselves that they didn't want to feel less than. So they wanted me to fall back into my old habits because they always fall off track in their habits and goals. So, come on, it doesn't hurt anything. It fucking does. It hurts your integrity as a man. And that bleeds into every other thing in your life. How you do anything is how you do everything, right? If you break your integrity, that's everything as a man. So I needed to change my environment. I did that by simply spending less time with those who would try to drag me down into their bad habits, right? If they drain my energy, if they were negative in any way, then I didn't want anything to do with that. You are not the sum or the average of the 5 people with whom you spend the most time. Instead, they are a reflection of you. Let me say that again. You are a direct reflection, the 5 people with whom you spend the most time are a direct reflection of you. Winners hang out with winners, losers hang out with losers. So, if you are hanging around with people that have habits like that you're trying to actively move away from, it becomes almost inevitable that you're going to slip back into those bad habits. And it makes it way more difficult than it needs to be to stick to your healthy habits. So change your environment, because iron sharpens iron. You hang around with winners, with motivated men who are living with purpose, who love what they do, who wake up excited and are purpose-driven towards a goal, versus somebody who hates their job, who wakes up tired, groggy, unmotivated, who eats like shit, who treats their body like shit. Like they're 2 completely different types of people. Victim mentality, who complains about this is wrong with the world, and this is why I can't do what I said I'm going to do, and this is why I can't go to the gym, and this is why I don't have time to work on my goals, versus the captain who eliminates all excuses, who gets what he wants regardless of circumstances because he's driven by purpose. two completely different types of people. So change your environment. This also goes for your social environment. Social media is neither good nor bad. Social media just is. All this talk on social media is causing all these problems in society. That's all bullshit. The way you use social media is either causing problems or causing massive benefits in your life. For me, I've now curated my social media feed to only be beneficial. How do I do that? I only interact with content that I want to see more of, content that is either educational or that is inspiring, right? So I only interact with, meaning like, comment, share, and save. That's an important one. So if you want to support content creators you vibe with and you want to see more of, don't just like their post, save their post, share it when relevant. And now, instead of seeing, a bunch of girls shaking their titties and, guys just going out partying and wasting their lives away and complaining about the news and everything that's going wrong in the world, I see educational content that inspires me to become better, that I learn something from, right? So now every time I go on social media, it's a net positive, right? So you can curate that type of social media feed for yourself as well. I meet most of my friends now on social media because we can see if we vibe with each other, if we're purpose-driven, if we're making a positive impact in people's lives. Those are the people who I want to hang around with and spend time with. People who are confident in themselves and who don't feel the need to tear me or anybody else down for their own self-esteem, right? So, yeah, change your physical environment, change the people you hang out with, change your social environment, the media that you're consuming, change where you're spending your attention. Because now, if somebody or something drains my energy in any way or is negative or complains, I want nothing to do with them. I am only interested in hanging out with and consuming content from people who are positive, inspirational, uplifting, educational, impact-driven. That's it. If you're not talking health, happiness, productivity, I don't want anything to do with you, right? Because I know my purpose. That's where I'm going. I'm not going back to the old version of Taylor. I'm not slipping back into those old unhealthy habits that got me stressed, depressed, anxious, burnt out, right? I'm not going back there. It sucks there, okay? So I needed to change my environment. So those are the things that are required for habit change. You need to, one, make the decision. Instead of what a lot of us do, what I did for a long time is turn away from it, right? It's like I knew I was stressed out. I knew I was depressed, but I didn't talk to anybody about it. I didn't reach out for help. I was like, I'm so tough, I can handle this on my own. And clearly I couldn't. I was hurting. And instead of addressing it and working towards it, I would just drink my sorrows away. I would play video games to distract myself. I would jerk off to porn. Like, none of these things were actually productive habits that got anything accomplished. They just kept dragging me down, farther and farther. All right. So you must actually face that something's wrong. You must admit to yourself that something is wrong, and then you must actually decide to change. Make that decision. Cut ties with the old version of yourself. You do that by having a strong enough why. That's going to be different for everybody. And then you must change your environment, because even the most mentally tough person, if they're surrounded by a bunch of other losers with bad habits who are trying to drag you down, you're going to succumb to it in one way or the other. And even if you don't succumb to it, it's going to delay your progress, because they're not pushing you up. They're not supporting you. They're dragging you down, right? So hang around people who support your wins, who support your goals, who do everything that they can to help pull you up, to inspire you, right? That celebrate your wins and not not focus on everything you've done wrong in your life. Okay. So those are the necessary things when it comes to any sort of habit change. You got to change your environment. If you want to learn more about habit change and goal setting, because while those are the most important things, we just really scratch the surface of what it takes to actually stay consistent with and stay disciplined in your goals and new routines. Because let's be honest, setting new habits and routines is difficult. Becoming a new person and changing your lifestyle is even more difficult. Right? Then the environment becomes even more important because, as you guys know, my brand is the Captain's Lifestyle. It's not just about fitness. I got fitness dialed in the Marine Corps. I was still stressed out. I was still depressed. I still had trouble sleeping. Like, my life was not good, even though I had fitness dialed in. So if you think that if you think that your life will be better just by going to the gym, it may improve it a little bit, but really that's only a small portion of it. If you want to become a new person and achieve all of these goals that you have, you must incorporate all 8 pillars of the wheel of lifestyle optimization, which is what I simplify in the Captain's Code, which is a free download. You can click the link in the description to get that. What I recommend is that you join the Captain's Lifestyle crew because, depending on when you're listening to this, on January 8th, 2023, I am hosting a goal-setting mastermind. So if you struggle to set or stay consistent with goals or New Year's resolutions or habits that you want to implement, if you are looking to stay disciplined and actually stick to the changes that you say you're going to make in 2023, this goal-setting mastermind is for you. And the only way to attend is to be a member of my private men's community, the Captain's Lifestyle Crew. We do weekly coaching calls, have a daily accountability chat via Telegram where we talk, like today, we talked about optimal light exposure. We talked about what we have for breakfast before workouts. We talked about our workouts. We talked about different supplements and biohacks. Like, all this just happened today. So there's a ton of value in there. And then also, I host masterminds similar to this goal setting one every single month, often with guest speakers whom I've had on the podcast. So if you want access to that, it's only a fucking $1. Bro, if you don't have $1 to invest in yourself, you're not serious. You haven't decided. You haven't committed to anything. If you don't have $1 to hop on weekly high-performance coaching calls, communicate daily with other committed men who are striving to achieve their goals, that's changing your environment, right? If you don't have $1 to get access to monthly masterminds, you're shit out of luck. Like, plain and simple, right? I know you've got $1. I know you're not shit out of luck because I know you're going to join the crew after listening to this. If I would have had this when I was in the Marine Corps, my life would have been completely different. I thugged it out for a while. Spent a lot of time on my own, again, because everybody else was on deployment. So I was by myself. So it got lonely, and the crew would have been fantastic. We're very supportive, and it's a great group of guys. Don't take my word for it. Join and find out. So that's it for today's episode. I wanted to keep this one short. I think I went a little bit longer than I even wanted to. But anyways, if you have any questions on goal setting or my experience with alcohol, actually real quick, I want to explain why I made the decision to consciously start drinking again after almost 2 years. I think it was like a year and like 9-10 months, something like that. Because at this point, I was the head coach of a gym in Saudi Arabia. And at that time, I was still competing to become a competitive CrossFit athlete. So again, because alcohol is poison and I wanted to pull out all the stops to succeed as a competitive CrossFit athlete, I continued the year of no alcohol to almost 2 years. I decided to drink again when I was in Switzerland at a aerobic capacity seminar put on by Matt Fraser, 5-time world's fittest man, and Chris Henshaw, which is one of the world's leading experts in aerobic capacity. I decided to drink in Switzerland because I made the decision to stop pursuing my competitive CrossFit career and instead shift to becoming a professional coach, which then later on in Saudi Arabia, I decided to quit my job as head coach, my high-paying job, to pursue and grow the Captain's Lifestyle program full-time. So once I made the decision that I'm no longer going to be an athlete and that I can have a drink every now and then, I decided to have a drink in Switzerland with some of the buddies that I met at the aerobic capacity seminar. So I made the decision consciously, which is important. Now, I do drink on rare occasions, not even once a month. And when I do drink, I drink the healthiest alcohol possible, preferably dry farm wines, which I've been blown away by. I track my sleep, my stress levels, my HRV, resting heart rate with a Whoop wristband and an Oura ring. I don't have them on right now, but I had tracked it for years. And when I met the Dry Farm Wines team at the Metabolic Health Summit in Santa Barbara, California, I had the equivalent of 2 glasses of wine, of their wine, 2 nights in a row. Typically, my data would show me that even after a single drink, my resting heart rate would increase, my HRV would plummet, my sleep quality would plummet, and then after 2 nights of having 2 glasses of dry farm wines, there was no drop in HRV, there was no increase in resting heart rate, and there was no decrease in sleep quality. I was blown away. And I don't know too much about why that is, but I speculate it's because of the higher antioxidant content, the like almost negligible amount of sugar, and the slightly lower alcohol content, as well as their wine isn't sprayed with pesticides like glyphosate that just wreak havoc on your gut and your whole body. Because they only source from farms that use a dry farming method or biodynamic farming method, which again, I don't know too much about. I'll have the founder, Todd, on my podcast to discuss it more in depth. But yeah, their wine is fantastic, and it's the healthiest wine and any alcohol, in my opinion. Also, as part of the crew, when you join, you get access to my alcohol optimization and hangover remedies course, which is like a 20-minute long video detailing my exact strategy that I've now come up with for when I do choose to drink without experiencing any of the negative effects of alcohol, like brain fog or hangovers the next day. For sure, I never experience those anymore. So I detail the exact process, what I do the day before drinking, what I do the day of drinking, like the morning of, right before drinking, during drinking, after drinking, and then even the morning after drinking. My whole strategy, from different like lifestyle protocols to when I work out, to what I eat, to what supplements I take, all in the name of optimizing alcohol consumption. Also, which alcohols I do use, dry farm wines. You guys can actually get the hookup on dry farm wines. They're not a sponsor, but I got a special link where if you sign up for their membership, you get an additional bottle of wine for a penny. I mean, come on. So that link will be in the description of this. You also, like I mentioned, for joining the crew, you get access to that course for free. You also get access to my morning and evening rituals course for free. So for $1, you fucking get basically everything that I've ever created for free. Accountability for free, coaching for free. So yeah, join the crew. And if you join the crew in time, if you're listening to this in time, January 8th is the goal setting mastermind. Make sure you register for that. It's going to be a good one. So yeah, if you have any questions, my DMs are always open. You response times have dropped now that my Instagram following is growing. So really the best way to get a hold of me is to join the crew and send me a message on Telegram in the chat. So that is it for today's podcast. I hope it helped. You know, it helped me. Looking back, I'm glad I decided. And I want you to decide. So make the decision. When you do, I'll see you in the crew. Until next time, remember, live the captain's lifestyle. Peace.